Welcome to Chapter 7. So Chapter 7 is all about the evolution of cooperation. And so first let's take a moment to think about the definition of altruism. So according to Boyd and Silk, the authors of this chapter, or of your book, altruism is a behavior that reduces the fitness of an individual performing the behavior, or the actor, but increases the fitness of the individual affected by the behavior, which is the recipient. So based on this definition alone, brainstorm several people who demonstrate this word, either in your life or just what you know of. These people can be famous, they can be individuals in your life. And what do they do to show altruism? Well, according to evolutionary theory, altruism should be pretty rare. And let me just kind of walk through this for a second. So you've already learned about classical fitness, which is just the concept of natural selection. So according to natural selection, classical fitness is individual survival and reproduction. So that's what natural selection is. It's only concerned with individual survival. So although individual reproduction perpetuates the species, this is not the sole purpose of reproduction. The purpose is to pass on your genes. So the fate of the group is irrelevant. However, when we're thinking about altruism, something else comes into play. And this is Hamilton's rule and the concept of inclusive fitness. So inclusive fitness is equivalent to an individual's total fitness, which consists of classical fitness plus the reproductive success of genetic relatives. So there's both a direct component and an indirect component. So your own individual's reproduction, along with the reproductive success of family members. So kin selection is a form of natural selection that acts on this indirect component of fitness. So if you think about it, we are related to our relatives, obviously. So we're about 50% related to each of our parents, 50% related to our full siblings, and 50% related to our own offspring. And so typically, according to this concept, we're more likely to engage in helpful behavior to those who are closely related to us. So according to Hamilton's rule, there's this little equation. The C equals cost to actor, the R is genetic relatedness, and B is benefit to recipient. So when the genetic relatedness times the benefit to the recipient is greater than the cost of the actor, then you'll see altruistic acts or kind acts that are helpful towards other people. Those are more likely to occur. So alloparenting, this is an example of kin selection. Alloparenting is caring for infants when you're not the direct mother or father. And among the FA foragers, alloparenting occurs in up to 60% by other people. And what researchers found was that both age and genetic relatedness were significantly correlated with who is taking care of infants. So non-reproductive adults were more likely and those who are older were more likely to take care of infants than reproductive adults. So that means like an aunt, for example, who is still in her reproductive prime would be less likely to take care of the infants than a grandparent. And another example among the Yanomama of Brazil, villages, when they become very highly populated, they'll start to split, and they usually split along genetic lines. So usually siblings will be more likely to stick together. So they're more likely to stay together and protect each other rather than split with non-related individuals, because they're more likely to be supported and protected by those people who are genetically related to them. The issue, though, is that we see altruistic acts occurring in people who are not related. And so this is another concept. So first we talked about kin selection, where we're more likely to help people that are related to us. But reciprocal altruism is the concept of reciprocity, where when you're more likely to interact with people again and again, you're more likely to help them out. So this is when the cost is less than the benefit times the future benefit to the actor. So you may agree to take care of your friend's dog while they're out of town, and you may not get anything immediately in return. But you have a pretty good idea that this person will help you out later. And so that's reciprocal altruism. And so natural selection will favor reciprocal altruism if the recipient reciprocates, if the cost of the actor is less than or equal to the benefit of the recipient, and if cheaters are punished. And so the punishment factor is really important, because if you help out and the person doesn't help you out later and they're not punished for it, then these types of bad behaviors will continue on, and no one would ever help out a non-related person, and that's just simply not the case of what we see. So this is also known as the tit-for-tat strategy. So in the tit-for-tat strategy, the very first move, you always cooperate. So if someone asks you to do something, you do it. And then the future moves, you do what the partner did. And so what this means is that in the future moves, if your partner cheats, then you cheat back. However, if they decide to cooperate, then you cooperate back. I'm sure you can think of many examples in your own life of this. So, actually, researchers have looked at this, and they've tested these 3 different scenarios against each other, whether to always defect, always cooperate, or to engage in tit for tat. Well, it turns out that tit for tat always wins because it's nice, because it always starts with cooperating, it rewards cooperation, and it defects on defectors, but it also forgives quickly. Like I said, you always do what your partner did previously, and so if they end up cooperating, you cooperate back. There's a lot of examples of reciprocal altruism. In a lot of communities, you see food sharing, you see assistance in time of danger, people engage in labor exchange, aiding the helpless, sharing information, and vampire bats, which is something you should look up on your own time. But it's important to think about what conditions support reciprocal altruism. So in order for reciprocal altruism to occur, you need to have a long life, you should have low mortality rates, live in a small, stable social group. And for example, communities such as the Aka of Central African Republic, which are pictured here, they had a high degree of altruism. They also engage in demand sharing, where they tell you that you must share whatever it is that you have, because you know you're going to keep seeing them again, and the same thing would be expected from them. So that takes us to this point, as in big cities, there's not as much altruism. And I'm sure you can think of the reason why. And it's because there's no one there to regulate cheaters, right? However, if you're in a smaller group, there are some cultural norms that regulate altruism and cheaters, even within large-scale societies. So if you think about it, in large-scale societies and on our own, we have a lot of social norms that regulate cheaters. So we just have both morals and values about cheating. We have police officers in place. So there's these socially imposed costs and benefits and punishments. And also norms typically are not that costly. So it's easy to do things without much of a cost. And then finally, there's just a high level of conformity. So when you're in a classroom, everybody is typically sitting there down in the classroom and conforming to the social norms. So anyway, this lecture just gives you a brief overview of cooperation. And as always, let me know if you have any questions.